I just need
just want to like see it in the face.
Space.
Okay, wherever.
You Whitney. We're good? We're good?
Yeah.
Benedict's
You're doing it with me.
I can do it. It's up to you. If you'd rather, I'd... Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I just wanted to take a few minutes. I'm Phil. This is Benedict. We're part of the team here at Proclaimers. I'm probably going to do more of the talking in the next minute than he is, but you never know. But we just wanted to take the opportunity to welcome you along this evening. It's so good to have you with us. This is a bit different to what we normally do, but we're very much excited. We've got Mark Ritchie with us, who, he's a speaker, podcaster, and comedian. He's toured what we're going to hear tonight all over the place, but particularly has performed at the Edinburgh Fringe. And this is his Edinburgh Fringe show, but we didn't have to travel to Scotland for it, which is probably a good thing. Probably a good thing that I leave the jokes to him as well for the rest of the night. But it is a real privilege to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. And please put your hands together for Mark Ritchie.
Wow. Basically the intro was, at least we don't have to go to Scotland, yeah? That was what I heard. That was cool. And well, listen, I'm just going to ask you to do the intro one more time, because I'll tell you why. Recently I've been to America, yeah? And when I came on from America, the Americans went absolutely crazy, yeah? They threw their babies up in the air. They went absolutely wild. So I'm just going to introduce myself. Pretend to be American, yeah? So put on about 3 stone and... It's just a joke. It's just a joke. And so I'm just going to, let's just, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Mark Ritchie. Thank you so much. So spontaneous. So thank you. Unbelievable. So, no, when I was there in America, I'm basically, this guy came up to me and said, I'd love to introduce you to my 4 kids. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So they were at the side, 4 boys, and he said, this is my oldest son. He's called Historic. That was his name, Historic. He goes, this is my 2nd kid. He's called Legend. That was the lad's name, Legend. He goes, this is my 3rd kid. He's called Epic. And he goes, this is my 4th kid. He's called Tony. He's like, Tony, can you imagine being Tony? You're like, I am not Legend, I am Tony, yeah? It's like, wow. And I just thought, like, if I went to school in Scotland and I was called, like, Epic, yeah? He says, what's your name? And you're like, oh, it's Epic, yeah. They'd be like, what's your surname? Is it Failure? Yeah, you know what I mean? It would be just absolutely... But I mean, I don't know if there is any Americans in tonight, but there is. Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah, you're also Australian, yeah, and South African, and just wherever you want. You can choose whatever nationality you like. I love Americans, but I'm Scottish, and sometimes I just find Americans, I mean, they're very, very, very positive, aren't they? Very positive. But I sometimes find them just a bit too positive, yeah? Like, they just kind of like, tone it down a bit, yeah? But they're just so... This is what happened to me. In July, I was shown some Americans around London, yeah? And it was pretty hot. And we'd all got T-shirts and shorts on, and it was pretty hot. And I sat down next to this American guy, and he looks me up and down in my little shorts and T-shirt. And honestly, he just went, wow, your quads are awesome. That's what he said. My little Scottish brain, I'm like, I haven't got the emotional apparatus to deal with the fact, why is this man talking so highly of my legs, yeah? I'm like trying to make it work in my head. And I'm trying to think, what do I say back to that? Wow, your quads are awesome. So I just turned to him and I says, well, if you think my quads are awesome, you should see my nipples. And, let's just say he did not have the emotional apparatus to deal with that comment. He moved away, yeah? He moved away. Everyone's a winner. So, It's absolutely true. So I'm really hoping that we're going to have a little bit of fun tonight, hopefully make you smile, maybe make you think a little bit. And everywhere I go, I always love to ask people, what's your best story? And I was in Leeds. Yeah, I was in Leeds. And basically, this midwife spoke to me. She goes, "Oh, Mark, we had a funny little thing happen." I says, "Well, what happened?" She goes, "Well, I'm working in this hospital right next to this really rough and tumble housing estate." And I was like, wow, I thought the whole of Leeds was just one big rough and tumble housing estate. And she said, so basically, she said, this woman comes in and she's screaming, "The baby's coming! The baby's coming now!" She's left it very late, yeah? She's pregnant, she's having the baby, she comes crashing through the doors. It's kind of wild. And next door is this guy, and he's got the bags, and he's like, "Rrr." And so, honestly, the midwife's like, "I've got to take control." So she says, "Right, everybody into that room." So they all go bundling into the room, and they get the lady up onto the bed, and she's like screaming, and the guy's faffing around with the bags, and like the midwife's like, "Okay, I've got to take control here." So he says, like, "Okay, that's right, you scream, that's great, the baby's coming." And then she says to the man, "Please, will you sit down?" He keeps on getting up, "Sit down." And then the woman's really screaming because the baby. Now listen, I'm a man. I've never had a baby, so I have no. But I have had the flu, yeah? So I do understand what she's going through, yeah? And it's just a joke. Please don't kill me. It's just ladies, yeah, we're going to chat to you at the end, yeah? Please do not murder me, yeah, please. And basically, she's screaming, and then as she's really in a lot of pain, as the baby's really coming, the man just stands up and he's like, "Oh!" And the midwife's like, "Please, sir, sit down." Oh, the baby comes. She puts the baby into the mum's arms. Mum has a little tear. She has a little cry. She turns to the midwife and she says, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is the most beautiful moment of my life." And then she says, "Who's he?" And the midwife's like, "Oh, I thought that was your boyfriend, your husband, your partner." And the guy's like, "I'm the taxi driver. I'm the taxi driver." He's like, "I should not be in here." He kept on trying to leave. And she's like, "Sit down." He's like, "I should not be in this moment. This is not for me." It's like, wow. It's wow. So, I don't know if you saw this in the news, but absolutely true, that in New Zealand, in an airport in New Zealand, they've put a cap on hugs. 3 minutes, a 3-minute cap on hugs, because they want the drop-off point to keep on moving. And there's a big sign that says, it says this: maximum hug time, 3 minutes. For fonder farewells, please use the car park, yeah? And the thing I want to say about that is 3 minutes. 3 minutes. That is a lifetime. Who is hugging for 3 minutes? Honestly, if someone hugs me for 3 minutes, I am calling the police. Do you know what I mean? And I include my wife in that, yeah? It's like 3 minutes. So, do you know, like when you're hugging someone and they hug for a long time? You know, when they just hold on for that extra little bit too long, and you start to get the weebie-jeebies. Do you know what I mean? You know, like milk when it's in the fridge, and at first it's lovely, and then it sort of starts to turn. Do you know that feeling when the milk begins to turn, and then it's like, blah. That's what hugs are like, aren't they? You know, you start with like, "Oh, this is lovely, lovely," and then after about 20 seconds, you're like, "Ooh." And then after about 40 seconds, you're like, "Oh, this is turning," yeah? Does anybody know what you do to get, like, if you're in an awkward, long hug, does anybody know how to get out of them? What do you actually do? Anybody got any advice? I'm genuinely asking, because I do not know how to do it. I like pat people on the back. I'm like pat people, you know, that old, oh, Yeah, I try and kind of slightly push them away. Yeah, I shoot them dead. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what do you do when you're in a long hug you cannot get free from? It's like, oh, it's bad, isn't it? It's bad. But I wanted to tell you about some great stuff that's been happening in my life, right? My daughter got married, yeah? It's like, oh, in America, they went crazy for that. Here, nothing, yeah? And you guys are like, get on with it, yeah? We've got stuff on. And my daughter got married. I could not stop crying. Honestly, walking down the aisle, my daughter getting married, I'm crying. At the front, I'm crying. During the service, I'm weeping. During the pictures, I'm crying. During the food, I'm crying. I could not stop crying. Now, my dad is a proper little Scottish guy. He's like 5'1". He comes up to here on my right nipple, yeah? It's different on the left side. And a lot of people looking at my left nipple now. And I'm just a bit aware of that. And basically, he comes up to me and he says, come over here. So my dad takes me, he says, son, you have not stopped crying since this wedding started. He goes, you're crying all the time. You need to pull yourself together. I says, Dad, this wedding is costing me a fortune. Yeah, it's costing me a fortune. I wanted one of those like little weddings. You know what I mean? Remember the COVID weddings? The little weddings where 10 people could come, yeah? I wanted one of them, yeah? He's like, oh, I'm sorry your mum never saw you get married, yeah? But Dad saved a few quid. You know what I mean? I wanted one of them weddings. But oh no, it was massive. It was massive. My daughter comes to me and she's like, Dad, I want to have 10 bridesmaids. 10? 10? I'm in my 50s. I do not have 10 friends. Yeah, I do not have 10. I do not think there are 10 people on this planet that I would save from a house fire. Do you know what I mean? I always like who laughs at that, yeah? This area over there, you should be ashamed of yourselves, yeah? This group were like, house fire jokes, we're not that sure. This group were like, no, we do not laugh at that, yeah? We've got dignity and respect, yeah? Yeah, 10. I'm like, come on, kids. She goes, Dad, you know when your daughter gets really, she goes, Dad, every single one of these girls means something to my life. They're part of my story. And I'm like, cool, let's do interviews, yeah? We'll do interviews and find out which part of your life they are. And I'll decide whether they're a bridesmaid, yeah? But no, she got her 10 bridesmaids, 10. It was amazing. And it's been a little bit difficult because, you know, having a daughter, she was like, Dad, you're my hero, you're my best friend, Dad, you're amazing. And then suddenly there's this new guy. Do you know what I mean? The new guy. She's like, oh, Dad, I've met this guy, Gideon. He's funny. Is he? Yeah? Is he funny? She's like, oh, Dad, he's a singer-songwriter. Like, that is not a proper job. That is not a proper job. Singer-songwriter, what is that? She's like, Dad, he's amazing, you'll love him. So, you know, meet him, he's all right, he's a good guy. But what I think is on the wedding day, I'm going to do the speech, the Father Day speech, Father of the Bride speech. And then I'm going to hand it over to him and let's see how he gets on, yeah? Let's see how he does. So I do my stuff, it's fun, and then it's over to him. He does the first couple of stories. Yeah, not that funny. And then he just says to his best man, could you bring in the keyboard? I've written Kezia a song. He's written her a song for the wedding, yeah? Everybody in the room's like, they're all crying, yeah? They're all, everybody's crying except me, yeah? I am there, and I am writing my daughter an opera, yeah? I am writing her an opera. An Italian opera lasts for 3 hours, yeah? And I'm going to sing it over her while everybody watches, yeah? Nah, he won the day. He won the day. He stole the woman, and they're happily married. But the thing is, he's doing okay with his singer-songwriting stuff. He's been on comic relief. He's been on Children in Need. He sang at the King's coronation. And suddenly I'm like, if he gets rich, I get rich, yeah? So I'm like, welcome to the family, yeah? Welcome in. You're absolutely welcome. He can call me Dad. That is fine. Yeah, it's like great. So my daughter got married and I was buzzing. But not only that, but my football team started to do really, really well. So my football team is Nottingham Forest, yeah? And, yeah, again, nothing, yeah? And Forest is like we've been in the doldrums in the championships for a lot of years. And then suddenly we're doing quite well. And just after COVID, there was a big match in the FA Cup, and it was Nottingham Forest versus Arsenal, yeah? The big London team coming to play against Forest. Now, I don't know if Sam's still here, but right at the back, hiding, yeah? He's an Arsenal fan, so every piece of anger is going to be directed at him, yeah? And basically, wow, what happened is that, like, Nottingham Forest are playing against the big London team. And I've taken my son. And Jordan, my son, 24-year-old Jordan at that point, was sitting there together, watching the football together. And wow, at halftime, it is Nottingham Forest 0, Arsenal 0. It's a draw, 0-0. And my son turns to me and says, Dad, 0-0. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, Dad, it's just 0-0. I goes, son, to a Scottish guy, 0-0 is a win, yeah? I still remember beating the English 0-0 at Wembley, yeah? I can remember what a win that was, yeah? I'd got my haggis and my iron brew, and I was like, you losers, 0-0, yeah? It's like amazing. In the second half, unbelievably, the ball got crossed over and the Forest player knocked it in. Wow, it's unbelievable. Forest 1, Arsenal 0. And when the ball goes in the net, we all like, I turn to my son and I am jumping up and down with my son. It's amazing. And then the crowd are all swaying and pushing. We're all going absolutely wild. And then suddenly I'm like thrown over here. And now I am jumping up and down with a complete stranger, yeah? A man I have never met before. And I am, and we're getting thrown around. And it is unbelievable and it's chaos. And then I get thrown back. And now I'm back in my seat. My son turns to me and he's like, Dad, Forest 1, Arsenal 0. This is amazing. And I'm turned to him and say, son, there might be a little problem. And he went, well, what do you mean? And I went, I think I've just licked a stranger. And my son says, what? He goes, Dad, what are you doing? I went, oh yeah, COVID days. Shouldn't really do that, should we, during COVID days? He's like, Dad, you never do it. Just normal behavior. You never lick a stranger. He goes, why would you do that? I go, son, I was jumping up and down with him, and I just saw his neck, and I thought, I wonder what that tastes like, yeah? I just saw, you know, when you see a neck, no one thinks this. I thought, I wonder what. Turns out, very salty, yeah, very, very salty. It was like, well. If you forget everything else I say tonight, please remember this. Once you've licked a man's neck, you can never look at him in the eye again, yeah? I had to watch the rest of the game at a bit of a tilt, and my son was watching. If it happened up there, he was telling me what was happening. It was unbelievable. He says, Dad, he's looking over. I says, of course he's looking over. I licked his neck, yeah? I mean, why wouldn't he be looking over? We got home, my son was immediately like, Mom, Dad, licked a stranger's neck. My wife was like, not again. She's like, why do we have this? Why? And so that was the story of me licking a stranger's neck. And I told it in Australia, and I told it in America, and I've told it all over the place, and it's been fine. And then a few months ago, I was telling this story just outside in the outskirts of Nottingham. I was doing a venue there. And I think some of you already know what I'm going to say. And I'm telling the story. And at the end, a man comes to the front. This is the most awkward conversation I've ever had. And he looks at me and he says, where were you sitting in that Forest Arsenal match? And I told him where I was sitting. And he said to me, it was my neck that you licked. And I looked at him and I was like, no, I don't think it was. And he said it was. And I went, no, I promise you, I don't think it was. He goes, mate, it was my neck that you licked. And then I looked at him and I went, well, there's only one way to find out. And just a cheeky little lick at the front of the... No, we didn't do that. We did not do that. But when he went over, it's like the weirdest conversation because I am convinced it wasn't him. But my wife was like, but that's even weirder. Why is he in the room going, I want to be that neck that was linked in that story? That is even freakier. So my daughter got married. My football team started to do really well. And then I celebrated 30 years married. 30 years married. 3 different women. And, no, joke, 2. No, 1. Beautiful Tamsin. And so Tamsin and me been married for 30 years. So we sat down for a coffee. I says, Tamsin, we need to do something to celebrate this. She's like, yeah, we do. She goes, I want to go to Vietnam. In all of our marriage, she's never mentioned Vietnam once. She wants to go to Vietnam. So I'm like, do you know what? Let's do it. She goes, I don't want to do one of those, like, you know, kind of like package deals. I want to do it on the internet, get it all sorted, and get it great. So we did. It was beautiful. Vietnam is a beautiful country. It was absolutely lovely. One of the things that we did was we got a train from the capital of Vietnam and we went into the mountains and we stayed for a week with this family. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And we stayed in their cabin and it was looking out onto the mountains, and then every day we had food with the family. And on the very first day we went in and what a feast. But can I just say this? Have you ever looked at lots of food and you do not recognize one thing on the table and you're like, is there anything that even looks a little bit like chicken? Yeah, you're just desperately looking for anything. And not only that, but lots of it was gelatinous. Do you know what I'm saying? It was a lot of it was very wobbly food, yeah? A lot of it was like, if you shook the table, everything was shaking, yeah? And then I had noticed down the side here that there was eyeballs, big eyeballs in a bowl. And I thought, do you know what? I'm Scottish. We eat deep fried Mars bars. I am going to eat an eyeball, yeah? I'm going to do it. But I've got a bit of a strategy. Scoop it up, straight in, hits the back of the throat, straight down. Do not crunch it. Do not bite it, yeah? Straight down, slithers right down. Worry about it in the morning, yeah? That is the strategy. A bit like when you have a kebab, yeah? Yeah, straight down, worry about it in the morning. And so it was good. Now, when you've been married 30 years, your wife has a way of communicating to you without using words, yeah? My wife uses her eyebrows. She has got the most descriptive eyebrows ever. And we're looking at each other, and my wife is saying to me, I'm going to try some of this stuff, but I am not having the eyeballs. And I'm looking, and I'm understanding. The eyebrows are communicating to me. We're eating the food, and my wife's trying a bit of this, and this is a little bit like rice, and this is a little fishy thing, and we're eating away. And then the lady of the house, she called Tamsin, Mrs. Tamsin, and she said, Mrs. Tamsin, you try. And she points to the eyeballs. Before I knew what I was saying, I found myself saying, Yes, Mrs. Tamsin, Mrs. Tamsin, you try. I'm handing the eyeballs over to Tamsin. Well, she took one and she did not have my strategy. She put it in the mouth. She crunched it. It squirted everywhere. It was like, ha, 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 ha. Let me just say that when we went back to the cabin, my wife got her eyebrows and beat the living daylights out of me. Yeah? She was so angry. And she was so angry. You knew that I didn't want that eyeball. And I was like, yes, I have lost every argument for the last 30 years. I was winning this one. It went, and she beat me with that eyebrow. It was bad. But were you taught when you were young, were you kind of taught the thing like, you know, if it's put in front of you, you eat it? Was everyone taught that? Like most people agree with that? If you put it in front of you, you'll eat it, yeah? And is there anyone here that's like, nah, I'm not having that, yeah? You would not eat? Oh. What sort of things could be put in front of you and you're like, no, 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 I'm not eating it? Everything I've just described, not having it, yeah. Well, when I went to college, so I went to Vicar College, and the college said, if you're ever out working for the college, you've got to eat what's ever put in front of you. And these two students in my class, they were sent to Wales, yeah? I mean, that's bad enough, isn't it? They were sent to Wales. Is there any Welsh people in there? Oh, I'm sure you're lovely. I'm sure you're lovely, but I'm glad you're quite near the back, yeah? So the thing is, they were sent to Wales, and basically they did some stuff in the morning service, and then they were having Sunday dinner. And the lovely Welsh lady brought in the big plate of chicken and potatoes and everything. And it was absolutely all smothered in gravy. And she went to get the other plate. And when she went to get the other plate, the student here sitting, and he went, oh, I don't like gravy. I can't have gravy. Man, this is a nightmare. What am I going to do? And the one with the food just said, listen, calm down. All you need to say to the lady very respectfully is there any chance that I can have mine without gravy? So sure enough, wow, she comes in with a big plate of food, chicken, potatoes, leeks, everything smothered in gravy. And he takes a gulp and he says, is there any chance I can have mine without gravy? And the Welsh lady says, of course, no problem. She takes the plate, she calls on the dog, and she says to the dog, just the gravy. And the dog licks the gravy off the plate, and then she hands it back to the student. And I wet myself when I heard that. And I was like, did you eat it? And he says, I had to eat it. He ate the chicken that the dog had licked all the gravy off. Oh, it's like, oh. And I tell that story. I told it in Tunbridge Wells, right? I was at Tunbridge Wells. They're all very posh in Tunbridge Wells. Very, very posh, yeah. They're all like, Waitrose. And they're like, you know, yeah, I've come here, no one's mentioned Waitrose once, and it's like more like Lidl, and it's like, it's just a joke, more like Aldi, and basically, it's like, this lady, and she came up to me and she was like, oh, that story about the dog. She goes, isn't the dog clever? That was her big takeout from that story, that the dog was clever, yeah? And I was like, oh. And then I've got a controversial opinion. I do not think dogs are clever, right? I think dogs are pretty thick, yeah? And when you say that, you get people that are like, no, my dog's amazing. You've not met my dog. There's people over there that have got a dog that they love their dog, yeah? What's your dog's name that you love? FOMO. Rolo. Rolo. Did it actually just bark just now? Yeah, good. Can you tell it I'm not actually talking to... Yeah, shh. Not talking to you, Rolo. I was talking to your owners, yeah? Did you buy it a Christmas present? Oh, I like you. Yeah, people that buy their pets Christmas presents should be shot. Yeah, is everyone in agreement with that? I agree with that. Honestly, I was in the park near Christmas, and there's this guy pushing his dog in a pram, yeah? And his dog's dressed up as a Christmas tree, yeah? And he's pushing it along. And I said, this is our dog. And I said, oh, that's lovely, lovely. And then he goes, oh, we don't know what to get Rover for Christmas. We don't know what to get. He's sitting in a pram with a Christmas tree outfit on. I don't know what to get Rover for Christmas. I says, you need to get new owners, yeah? That's what that dog needs. That's what that dog needs. I mean, people, like, oh, I bought my gerbil, an air fryer. So the thing is, I mean, I have a bit of a thing about people buying their pets Christmas presents. But I do honestly think that dogs are thick. And people come to me and they're like, no, our dog is clever. And then they say this guy really thought he'd got me, right? He says, no. He goes, what about sheepdog? Sheepdogs are clever. The way they kind of herd those sheep into the pen, amazing. And I went, no, that does not show you that sheepdogs are clever. That just shows you that sheep are even thicker than dogs, yeah? Why? Why have sheep not gone, right, there's 50 of us, yeah? There's one of him. Let's give him a battering, yeah? Why? I would watch that YouTube clip, yeah? 50 sheep giving a dog a battering. Wouldn't you watch that YouTube clip? I would watch that. I'd be like, wow, that is amazing. But when you're at the Edinburgh Fringe, you get random heckles, yeah? People shout weird things out. And this Scottish guy, big ginger beard, right, at the back, and he just shouted out from nowhere. He went, hey! So I turned. He went, always put a bit of salt in your pot noodle. That was his big message, his life message that he wanted to get out there was always put a bit of salt in your pot noodle. Now, I think I can speak for everyone when I say pot noodles are rancid, yeah? Is everyone in agreement with that? I mean, pot noodles are disgusting. A little bit of salt will not make them master chef, yeah? It's like, wow. Is there anyone here that does actually like a pot noodle? Oh, right on the back row. What's your favorite pot noodle? Whoa! I love it. Even the way you said it was Bombay bad boy. You said it in the manner it was written. Bombay bad boy, yeah? I like that. Aggressive, yeah. Is there anyone else that likes a pot noodle? Oh, what's your favorite? Beef and tomato. It's never saw any beef and it ain't seen any tomato. It's just seen a lot of chemicals that some man's put. It's purple before they put the last chemical in. It's like, I think pot noodles are disgusting, yeah? And if I was writing the little kind of like directions at the side, I would write this. Step 1, take off the lid, remove the sachet. Step number 2, hot boiling water up to the line, yeah? Step number 3, leave for 4 minutes, yeah? Step number 4, during those 4 minutes, have a think to yourself. Why has your life got to such a horrendous, dark place that you're about to eat a Bombay bad boy, yeah? Why is your life so bleak and meaningless that you're about to tuck into a beef and tomato pot noodle, yeah? Step number 4, get the pot noodle, put it in the bin. Step number 5, get a sausage roll from Greg's. Come on, come on. Do people love sausage rolls from Greg's? Do we have a lot of... Is there anyone who gets anything different than a sausage roll? Anyone get anything different? Oh, what do you get? A chicken bake. Wow. What do you get? Steak bake. Love that. Solid, strong, yes. Does anybody else get anything from Greg's that's a bit unusual? Anyone here get the vegan sausage roll? Anyone get the vegan sausage roll? I mean, people would put their hands up, but they're like... Give me a minute. I know if you're a vegan and you're offended by that, you want to fight me in the foyer. But that's fine. Let's have a fight in the foyer. Yeah? Yeah, because I'll win, yeah? Because you'll need a nap, yeah? You'll need to have a little sleep in between. He's like, oh, as soon as I wake up, I'm going to give you a battering. Yeah. It's good. It's good. Well, my food that I totally love. Is there anyone in the room that loves a curry? Any curry fans in the room? Yes. This is a Bombay bad boy. Do you like a curry? And that would be weird if you're like, no, I don't like anything spicy. I do not like it spicy. It's like, in Nottingham, where I live, there's a curry house. It's got a big sign outside, and it says this: come in and try our curry. You will never get better. And they've not thought that sign through, have they? You'll never get better. We've all had curry like that, though, right? Bombay bad boy, you have definitely had curry like that. It's like, oh. You know when you're having a curry and you think, oh, where's the wet wipes? You know that kind of, when you're like, oh, I need to have a little bit of a rescue plan in place. It's just going bad. Oh, so I really like spicy food. And I was telling the people in Australia that I really liked spicy food. I was in Melbourne and I was talking about curry. And this one guy at the end of the show, he came straight up to me and he says, do you like it spicy? I said, yeah. He says, listen, have you ever heard of pho? So pho is this spicy Vietnamese soup, very spicy soup. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I know the spiciest Vietnamese shop in Melbourne. I'll take you there. Let's see how we get on. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. A couple of days later, he's across the table. We've got 2 steaming, absolutely spicy bowls of soup. I take the first spoonful, and on the inside, my burning body, yeah? It is like, but on the outside, I'm like, it's all right, yeah? And then I look over at him. He starts to eat his soup. And as he starts to eat his soup, I can see that he is sweating. His neck has gone red. He has got sweat rolling down his ears, dripping off his ears, down the side of his face. And then I look at him and I can see that he's got sweat rolling down his nose and is actually dripping into the soup, yeah? And I look at him and I think, well, he's never going to finish that, is he? He is never going to finish that. He's in a soup loop, isn't he? He's in a soup loop. He's going to get trapped in his own soup because he just cannot finish it, because he is refilling it as we speak. He is just there, man found dead in bowl of soup, yeah? As he's trying to empty it, he cannot empty it. It is refilled. I mean, wow. It was spicy, though. It was spicy. But my friend Simon and me, we went for a curry, big celebration curry. It was his birthday. We went for this big, it was beautiful. We had starters and side dishes, and we had everything. We got all these 4 or 5 main dishes. It was lovely. Oh, such a great meal. And then, right at the end, the waiter comes over and he says, would you like a dessert? Now, the rule about curry houses is you never have a dessert in the curry house, because if you ask for it, he's got to go and put his coat on and buy it from Tesco's, yeah? He's got to go out and get it because they've not got it in the fridge there, yeah? And so he's like, don't make him do that. So we're like, no, we'll just have a coffee. We'll just have a coffee. So Simon's got a coffee, I've got a coffee, and we're just looking, chat. And I look down and there's an ant in my coffee. Oh, an ant in my coffee. I'm like, oh. So I call the waiter over. I says, oh, I'm really sorry, but there's actually an ant in my coffee. He looks and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I goes, it's fine. He goes, yes, I'm really sorry. I'm like, it's completely cool. Just get me another coffee. All's good. He brings back the other coffee. It's all fine. We finish the coffee. It's time for the bill. It's £180, right? I told you that we'd had a good time. Yeah? And some of you are looking at me going, £180? You can almost buy a house for that in Ipswich. And so the thing is, I hope there's no one here from Ipswich who is like, yeah, oh, they're all, oh, are you from Ipswich? I am so sorry. I am so sorry that you live in Ipswich. So the thing is, the thing is that these, 180 pound. Oh my goodness. So the waiter comes over and says it's 180 pound. But the owner is so sorry that you had an ant in your coffee, that he said, listen, you can do whatever you want with it. You can do whatever you want. You can pay a little bit of it. You can pay all of it. You can pay, just do what you want. He's so sorry about the ant in the coffee. Did I mention that I am Scottish, yeah? I'm like, I mean, what would you do? I mean, Bombay bad boy, what would you do? What would you do? Be gone. Pay nothing. Wow. In all the time I've done this, no one has ever said pay nothing. Nothing. I love that. That's the generous spirit that we believe in, yeah. What about beef and tomato guy? What would you pay? What would you pay? You would pay what? Pay full. Pay it all. Little tip for the extra protein in the ant, yeah? I like that. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this man over here is a liar, yeah? No, I'm joking. It's like, wow, pays it all. I thought I'd done pretty well. We paid half, yeah, we paid half. But now that I've met you, I feel a bit guilty about that. But fortunately, Bombay bad boy over there, who's like nothing. I'm paying nothing. It's like amazing. So I've got a bit of an issue that I wanted to kind of share with you. I've got a bit of a rage issue, right? A rage issue. It's not road rage, yeah? It's not road rage. I don't suffer from road rage. Is there anybody here that suffers from road rage? Anyone? Bombay bad boy, what's happening? No. Just because you like Bombay bad boy does not mean that you're a crazy driver, yeah? And I have to accept that. Sam, the nicest man in the world, I bet you are horrendous behind the wheel, aren't you? Yeah. He's always a nice guy. Sam's like this lovely, nice guy. Hey, yeah? It's like, hey, let me give you a hug. Too long, Sam. And, yeah, we've gone the 3 minutes, brother. But actually, he would be horrendous. Yeah? Is there anyone that's willing to admit that they do have a little bit of road rage, kind of? Really? Do you honestly have road rage? Honestly, it's not the ones you expect, is it? It's not the one who's like, lovely man, you trust him with your life, gets behind the wheel, and he's like swearing, effing and jeffing, cutting people up, yeah? Bashing into their cars. It's like, I did not expect that. I should have realized when I saw that moustache. Yeah, I thought, do not trust a man with a dodgy moustache, yeah? I thought that. When we're having dinner earlier, I thought, ooh, that moustache is very aggressive, yeah? Sort of like, yeah, talks to you before he talks to you. It's like a moustache just there. It's like, wow. What about the Ipswich guys? No cars. So the thing is, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. So I don't suffer from road rage. Oh, I love this. So when I was in Australia, this really quiet lady introduced me. She was the quietest lady I've ever met. She introduced me like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Ritchie, right? People were like, she sat down. She was really timid. I was talking about road rage. Anyone here got road rage? She puts her hand up. I'm like, no, you definitely do not have road rage. And this is what she said. She goes, I do. She goes, I've had to scrape off my Jesus loves you sticker off my car. I love that. I love that she's had to scrape it off because she's a horrendous road rager, yeah? Wow. So, wow. I don't suffer from road rage. What I suffer from is something I would like to call litter rage, yeah? You know when people chuck stuff, it gets me. I remember being at McDonald's, kids were quite young, they're eating McDonald's on a Tuesday night, raining, yeah, they're eating the burger, they're eating the chips, they're eating the box, all taste the same, yeah, and they're there, and it's pouring with rain, and this car comes in, music blaring, yeah, and they're eating the stuff, and then I just saw his electric window come down, and then all the stuff, boom, onto the floor, yeah, just chucks it all on the ground. And I'm like, my son was like, Dad, no, 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 Dad, no. Too late, yeah? I'm out the car, and I'm round, and I'm like, oh, lads, you seem to have dropped something, yeah? And then I was like, why don't I get down and pick your rubbish up? And I got down and I picked it up. I says, you are a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourself. And I went over and I put it in the bin. And I'm making my way back to the car when the window comes down. And the young guy just goes, cheers, mate. Oh. And so I've had it for a while where if I see people chuck rubbish on the floor, I get a bit agitated. And I was in Nottingham just a few months ago, and I was just kind of minding my own business, and there was a group of about 10 lads, all of them 17-year-old lads, eating KFC, eating the chicken, eating the chips, the gravy, all of that, walking along, 10 of them. And I'm just minding my own business, and then I see them poof, chucking all this stuff on the ground. And before I knew it, I was like, lads, one thing that I have realized about being Scottish is that when Scottish people speak slowly, English people wet their pants, yeah? Because a lot of you were like leaning back then. You're like, oh, it's going to kick off. And I was like, lads, this is a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourself. I says, how about I pick your stuff up and put it in the bin? And I got all the chicken, chips, all the stuff in my hands. And they're all looking at me. And I turn and I'm walking towards the bin. And as I'm walking towards the bin, I'm thinking, I am Braveheart. I have just taken a clan of Englishmen on, and I have won. I have shut them right up. And I'm just about to put the stuff in the bin, and I trip on the curb, yeah? I tripped on the curb. I fell, and the gravy was on my face. And as I lay on the ground, I just looked up at them and went, let that be a lesson to you, yeah? And they wet themselves. Yeah, they could not stop laughing. They could not stop laughing. So this show tonight is called Mark Ritchie, Too Close for Comfort. And I mean, obviously, the guy in the Nottingham Forest, he knows what I'm talking about. Too close for comfort, yeah? But it's partly called that because I had something happen to me. So I like to go for a bit of a run. Most mornings, I like to go for a bit of a run. And I live quite near a nature reserve, and there's not a lot of people around. So every morning, I like to go for a bit of a run, and there's a tree, and I like to have a wee behind the tree, yeah? Every morning, there's no people around. I have a wee behind this tree. It's brilliant, yeah? Every morning. And then what happened is, I went one morning, and I had a little wee behind the tree, and I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, that's not the right color. My wee is the wrong color. I'm like, oh. So I ran back home, and I screamed up the stairs, Tamsin, I've just had a wee, and it's not the right color, and I've not even had beetroot, yeah? And I'm like, what am I gonna do? So she's like, oh, Mark, next time you go for a wee, we'll have a little look. So I'm like, you know, if you ever waited for a wee, it's a very tense experience, yeah? You're like, oh, no, not yet. And it's like, and then, oh, wow, I get there, I have this wee, and my wife and me are looking at this wee, and she's like, that is blood in your wee. And I'm like, oh, no. She's like, yeah, you're going to have to call the doctor. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. Call the doctor. Phone the doctor, and basically the doctor says, oh, listen, because of everything that happened with COVID, blah, 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 we can see you a week on Wednesday. I'm like, fine. Mark Ritchie, start giving my details. And just towards the end of the call, the doctor says, can we ask you what it was? I says, well, I always go for a run, and I like to have a wee behind the tree, yeah? And I told him the whole story. He didn't seem that interested in that bit. But when I said to him, oh, I think there's blood in my wee, he said this, are you able to get to the surgery in the next 30 minutes? I'm not a medical expert, but when something goes from a week on Wednesday to like in the next 30 minutes, that is not a good sign, is it? And this next couple of moments, I understand that there might be people in the room that have had bad medical situation. Maybe you've had a bad thing happen to you at the doctors, and my heart goes out to you, and I really want you to win because I know it's tough. And I'm just like telling my story, but I know that there are people in the room that have known what it's like to have a bad report from the doctor, and that is a hard place to be. But I went there, and they did all these tests on me. Now, I've got to be super appropriate in a room like this full of lots of people, so I'm going to be very careful how I next say this sentence. But all I want to say is that I've realized that when a doctor puts on those blue gloves, yeah, nothing good is about to happen, yeah? Yeah, he is not reffing a snooker match, oh no. He's not about to do a drama, no. Bad things are about to happen. And I had all these tests, and it was like, oh, not good. And at the end of all these horrendous tests, we go into this little room, and the doctor says, Mark, take a seat. I goes, no, I'll just stand. And thanks for laughing at that. Only a few people laughed at that, yeah? Some of you are like, I'm not willing to laugh at that, and I respect that. And I stood there, and he says, Mr. Ritchie, we've got some bad news. We've done these tests, and we think you've got a life-shortening cancer. We think it's going to be something that's going to impact your life majorly. We're going to send you to the hospital, but we think you've got a very aggressive form of cancer. The big hospital will do bigger tests on you, but we just want to be accountable and make sure that you're ready for that. So we needed to tell you immediately. Go home, tell your loved ones what the situation is. Be ready that you're not going to get great news at the hospital. And I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, no. This cannot be happening. This is not true. And I remember just in my mind the whole time going, am I going to die? No. Nah, this cannot be right. I'm not going to die. And I remember the three things that hit me like a train. Number one was I just wanted to love my kids. I wanted to love my wife. I just held them and wanted to hold them forever because I was like, no, this cannot be happening. And the second thing is I kept thinking about like, oh man, the things that I wanted to achieve and I've not managed to achieve. I got a bit obsessed and I put on my social media, if you were to die today, what's the one thing that you wish you'd been able to finish? People were writing these amazing answers back. It was so wonderful. And then a woman, she just put Wordle. Yeah, that's what she put. She wanted to finish Wordle before she died. Fantastic. And then the third thing. Firstly, I wanted to love all my family. Secondly, I just wanted to be like, wow, I had so many things I wanted to achieve. And thirdly, I just was like, am I okay with God? Am I actually all right with God? Because I'm actually going to see God face to face in a moment. I'm actually going to see God. I'm going to be like, wow, has some distance come between God and me? And so then I went to the big hospital for the big tests. And when I went there, if I thought the doctors was bad, this was 20 times worse. I had horrendous tests. And then I got to the end. And the doctor came and says, Mark, we need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, not again. And we go in this room and he went, Mark, we need to tell you that everything is absolutely clear. You've got absolutely nothing. All you've had is something called jogger's pee that sometimes you strain and you get a little bit of blood. And we can't understand why your doctor just never told you that. And I was like, I remember standing there, I punched the air. I was like, yes! And I know, don't judge me. I know I should not have licked the doctor, yeah? I know I should not have licked the doctor's neck. I know that. Listen, like the courts will decide. But the thing is, I was so elated that I was absolutely fine. But that sense of kind of like, am I okay with God? My mortality had like looked at me straight down the eyeball and said, are you ready to meet God? And I guess for all of us, it's like none of us know what is happening. Are we ready? Could we meet God face to face and everything be fine? Has some distance come between God and us? You see, I wanted to say it like this. Let me say it like this, is that, you know, my wife and me, we went to Australia. We went to the Gold Coast, and we had an amazing time. And I was in the sea, and I was loving it in the sea, and it was beautiful, but it was such a strong current. It was such a strong current. It was dragging me down. And I was like, man, I'm a decent swimmer, but I am struggling. And when I got out, I spoke to the lifeguards, and I said to them, man, I've never been in a sea like that before. And this is all, Mark, this is like one of the most ferocious seas. The eddies turn quick. The riptide can turn fast. This is just a few weeks ago, before you got here, there was a really horrendous change in the sea, and like people were really struggling. And we had to come running out, and we told everyone to get in on the beach. And everybody was getting on the beach, but there was this one girl. And this one girl, a 9-year-old Australian girl, a good swimmer, and she began to struggle. And they were shouting and screaming at her to try and get help. And then they went and they ran and they picked up this thing called a rescue can. And they threw the rescue can to her, and it landed near her, and it's on a rope. And they were screaming, grab the can, grab the can. And then these guys were like, you have no idea what it was like, because this little girl was in such a whirlwind. She did not know which way was up and which way was down. She was all over the place, and she wasn't understanding what they were shouting at her. And then they said, we saw her head go under the water, and the world stopped. And they're like, what is going on? And they were shouting and screaming. And then suddenly this little girl just pops up out of the water. She's spluttering and coughing, but the light bulb's gone on in her head. She grabs the rescue can, and they pull, and they're dragging her in. And as they're dragging her in from the sea, there's this man running across the beach, and he's slobbering and crying and weeping. This is Dad. And Dad comes running across the beach, and when they pull the little girl in, the dad comes and he scoops his little girl up, and he holds his little girl in his arms, and he's like crying, and she's crying, and the lifeguards are crying, and it's like, wow. And you know, that picture is exactly like us and God. You see, the story of the Bible is that we've all, every one of us in this room, we've drifted away from God. And I know that there's some of us in this place today, we're a bit like that little girl. We don't know which way's up. We don't know which way's down. The world's going crazy. And we feel in such an absolute whirlpool of emotion and absolute chaos. And though many of us in this room today, we're absolutely in that place where we're like, wow. And this is the true story, is that God so desperately wanted us to be rescued that what he did was he sent the rescue can. And the rescue can was that God sent his son, Jesus. And Jesus died on the cross. And that was like the line, the rescue line, that if only we grabbed hold of the cross, we can be pulled into the arms of God. But you know, some of us, we're like, do you know what? I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay. I don't need that. But actually, I was praying earlier, a little tear rolled down my cheek, because I don't want anyone in this room that, wow, you would miss this opportunity, that you would grab hold of the cross, that you would grab hold of the rescue line, that you could be pulled into the arms of God. I know today that I am tight with God because I came through the cross. And I would love it for every one of us to be in the arms of the Father. And so what we're going to do in a moment is simply this, is that I'm just going to pray a tiny little prayer. And I'm going to pray this little prayer, and I'm going to ask you, wherever you are today, that you would pray that prayer after me. Don't say it out loud so people can hear, but pray it in your heart. And as you pray in your heart, wow, God will hear that prayer. And then I'm going to say amen. And I'm going to ask us to keep our heads bowed for just a few more moments. And I'm going to count to 3. And I'm going to say this. If you prayed that prayer, I want you to put up your hand. And I've brought a book with me today. And I would love for you to have that book for free. And some of the team will come and they'll actually put it into your hand. And when you've got it, just take it and stick it under your chair. We'd love for you to have that. That's free for you. You prayed the prayer. And oh, wow, you just get that free book and stick it under your chair. So I wonder just for a moment if we could bow our heads. Bow our heads. Maybe if you feel fine to do this, you could close your eyes. And as your head's bowed and your eyes closed, this is the prayer. Why don't you pray this prayer in your heart after me? Dear God, I'm sorry for drifting away from you. I'm sorry for the stuff of my life that's got in the way. Thank you that you sent Jesus so that I could be rescued and that I could be pulled into your arms. I receive your forgiveness now in Jesus' name. Amen. Heads stay bowed and our eyes are closed. I'm going to count to 3. If you prayed that prayer, I just ask that you slip up your hand on 3 and we'll see that hand. 1, 2, 3. That's fantastic. Just keep your hand up as the team are coming now. If you've not got your hand up and you prayed that prayer, please, it's not too late for you just to quickly slip up your hand. We'd love for you to have this book. We want you to have the book today. That's absolutely fantastic. Is there anyone else, just before we move on, that prayed that prayer today? Then just quickly, before we finish, just slip up your hand so that we can make sure you get that book away with you today. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for people responding to you. Thank you, Lord, that the cross brings us close into your arms. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Great stuff. Well, yeah, wonderful that people responded to God today. That is absolutely amazing. Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm just going to tell you one last daft little thing, and then I'm going to hand back to the guys. I think I'm going to hand back to the great moustache, yeah? And you will notice how aggressive that moustache is, yeah? And basically, I've had an absolutely fantastic time with you guys. You've really looked after me well, and I really appreciate that. So let me just tell you my last little thing, and then I'm gone. So basically, has anybody ever heard of the store called Millets? Does anybody heard of that store? It's like a camping outdoor equipment store that basically it's gone bust. I said it's gone bust, and somebody shouted at one of the shows, it's actually still one open in Derby. And I really love the thought that all the shops die and go to Derby, yeah? I love the thought of that. Woolworths, yeah? Dorothy Perkins is feeling a little bit dodgy, so she goes to Derby to die, yeah? I love that. I love that. But Millets, and when I was like 17, in Edinburgh, I worked for Millets, yeah? Camping outdoor shop. And the manager told me that they'd been getting a lot of stuff nicked. I mean, who nicks stuff from a camping store, yeah? Who nicks things from an outdoor, maybe Bombay bad boy, yeah? I mean, he nicks a tent. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, we're fed up with things getting nicked. He says, so Mark, next time, we're running after them. I'm like, sure. So I'm on the shop floor, and then suddenly I get a scream, Mark, no! And I look up. And sure enough, there's a young guy running out the back, and he's got stuff under his jumper. And the manager and me, we go running after him. And I've never chased a criminal before, so I didn't really know what to do. So I shouted at the top of my voice, hey, stop, thief! That's what I shouted, yeah? I don't know what I thought was going to happen. Did I think he was going to stop and go, you're right, yeah? I've made some bad life choices, yeah? But he kept running, but I shouted, stop, thief. And then you'll never believe this. A lovely old lady, maybe 87, 88 years old, with her walking stick. She just went, boom, right? The guy went flying up into the air, came crashing down. She gave me a little cheeky wink, yeah? That's honestly true. Thing is, she took out the wrong guy, yeah? She took out the manager. She whipped the manager out. Oh, so now I'm chasing the guy on my own. The blooming manager's on a crumpled heap, yeah? I'm running down along Princess Street. I'm chasing this guy. And then I'm catching him up. And I've got that weird thing. Do you remember at junior school when you chased someone and then you thought, what do I do if I catch them? Do you remember that? You're thinking, I have no idea what to do if I catch him. I'm like, oh, I'm catching this guy, I'm catching him. And sure enough, I did this rugby tackle, and I took him down, and he's down on the ground. And then I'm right up, and I've got his own. But then he gets up, and he's knocking me to the ground, and it's a proper fight. And I'm thinking, I hope the manager comes soon, because he's going to get away. And then I've got him down on the floor, and it's all pretty aggressive. And then, wow, the manager comes, and we pick him up. We take him back to the store, and they call the police. The police are in there for ages, and I'm just kind of brushing myself down. And the police come out, and they look over at me and give me a bit of a weird look. And then the manager comes out, and they take the young guy away. And then the manager comes over to me, and I went, is everything okay? And they went, well, kind of okay. I says, what do you mean? He says, well, that guy that nicked the stuff, he says that when he was on the ground, he felt something hot against his neck. Guys, you have been an amazing crowd tonight. God bless you. God bless. Thank you.
Oh, wasn't that wonderful? Let's have another round of applause for Mark. I just want to take a moment to invite you to come and join us again, really. It's been such a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us today. And I'd just like to extend the invitation for you to join us next Sunday. So we do Sunday evenings occasionally, but we're normally here at 10 a.m., 10 in the morning for our regular Sunday services. And we'd just love to take the opportunity to invite you to come and join us for that. Maybe you joined in praying that prayer today for the first time, or because you wanted to make that decision again. We would love to have the chance to catch up with you. Obviously, you will have the book, but if you'd like to talk to someone, myself, Mark, will be down the front. Some of the rest of the team will be around as well. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. Maybe we're interested in what Mark had to say around that moment. You'd like to explore it a bit more. You know, we hopefully hope that our church is a kind of safe space where you can find out a bit more about what that's all about, what Jesus is all about. We would love you to come and join us. You don't have to believe what we believe to belong as part of the community of our church. And we would love to see you again, whether it's next Sunday or at some point in the future. As I say, we're always here at 10 a.m. On a Sunday. Sometimes we're here in the evening, but 10 a.m. is the best time to come and find us. But it's been a real pleasure to have you with us this evening. I hope that you've enjoyed things as much as I have, apart from perhaps one or two comments about my facial furniture. I have a very disinteresting face if I don't have a mustache. So, you know, I didn't realize it was aggressive. But if my mustache has said something else to you this evening, I can only apologize if you were offended by my mustache. But no, it has been a real pleasure to have you with us. We would love to see you again sometime. But until then, take care. Be blessed.
That was good, mate. Sorry, I knew you could take a little bit of